Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Steve Mills. If you're listening to this on my podcast, then welcome. It's great to have you back. And if you're listening to it on YouTube or on a website somewhere, perhaps you're listening to it on social media, then equally welcome. Today I'm really lucky because I've got a guest with me whose name is Mark Layder, and he's the managing director, the founder of Bizconnectors. So welcome, and thank you ever so much for your time in being here, Mark.
Good to speak, Steve. It is, the world is a connected place. So here we are connected.
It is indeed. Yeah. It's amazing how you can, connect these days. And, back when, certainly when I was a younger man, to do this, it'd probably be on TV and, probably out of both of our reach. But now we can, connect with and impact thousands upon thousands of people through podcasts and video and social media and so on. So it's a changing world, which is really the subject of today. Just to kick off, Mark, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about you and your organization and what you do?
Yeah, real quick version then, people we realize that people hire us to create what we started to call a 24/7 business development element within their business, because most business owners are not from that kind of a background. 80% of them plus aren't from that background. Sure. So if we could help them with that, because they're so often now they're being told they've got to be LinkedIn posters, they've got to be super duper salespeople, they've got to they want to make cakes, they want to design software, they want to do the stuff they love about their business. So it kind of led us on a path of creating this new profession that we grandiosely call business connectors, because it's a new way of people running their businesses and designing their businesses so they can spend more of their time on the bits that they love. And the bottom line means we can make big, bold statements like people can have their dream business for less than the cost of hiring one other or one average wage employee, which gets people thinking about what's possible and where they can spend their time. So we're in the distribution business for helping particularly non-sales and marketing background businesses, which is the bulk of them, to really be able to create a business structure that they can thrive in. And that's very different to what you hear on Dragon's Den or most business schools. It's a different way of running businesses.
Yeah,
that's what we're there to do.
Yeah, and it is so needed right now. Your point about, people when they go into business, often they're garage mechanics or they're accountants or they're hairdressers. And I don't know whether you know of Michael Gerber. You probably do.
I know him well enough to be the fact that we were the first people to bring the EMyth to the UK in 1996.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, that's I must have bought, without any exaggeration, over 1,000 copies of the EMyth. I give it away to everybody, and occasionally sell it even on my website, but often I just give it away because it's such a great book. Yeah. And I know Gerber says that, when people start in business, they go into business because, the variety of reasons. They've lost their job, they don't want to work for the person they did before, and so on and so forth, believing that because they're a good garage mechanic and good at repairing cars, that they can run a business that does that. And as Gerber says, it's simply not true. And they need expertise like yours and like mine to be able to really, fulfill the sales and marketing side. And then they need expertise on the financial side as well, because that's so important. So just to give everybody who may not know me a little bit of brief, for 27 years now, over a quarter of a century, I've been helping small businesses with their sales and marketing. I see myself these days more of a business growth advisor, helping people, although I do have a small team of people who also, you can outsource your marketing to us and we'll do all that type of work as well. But today, what we wanted to talk about is really, I suppose, in a nutshell, the future. And the future as far as business is concerned, and specifically what we think, and I emphasize the word think because I don't think in this volatile world we all live in right now, nobody really knows what's going to happen in 2022. But what we think, Mark and I think, is going to happen, and probably what businesses need to do to make sure that they not only survive but thrive during that time. So I'm going to pass the book over to you, Mark, to kick us off. What are your thoughts regarding what's going to happen?
Well, Steve, before COVID, even before COVID, there was a huge trend. You know, it got a name, didn't it? It probably comes out of somewhere like San Francisco, the side gig economy. And
Yeah.
it did with a side gig, and people were looking for other things. And if I go back to the days of when we trained the first generation of coaches in the early 90s, even then we could see a change in the whole thing of a job. And my old chairman used to call it jobs equaled 1 month security, because jobs were called secure. So, a generation goes by and COVID comes along, and these trends were there, but again, in US terms, 10x'd it. The side gig economy now isn't now a marginal thing. It's now a central thing. It's now a thing that people are saying that they really kind of don't trust that their jobs are the secure way of providing for their family. So a lot more people, a friend of ours who's a franchise consultant, he had more phone calls about people looking for franchises on the first day of lockdown last year than ever before in 30 years.
Wow.
It was the bigger, because people were saying, I don't want to be put in this position again. So it was already changing, but now people have kind of, and I guess they've been at home and have seen the effects of COVID, and people have lost people. That volatility has got people now to say there has to be a different way. And that's now, it's being willing to open your mind to that there is a different way, and then what are the options? And that's where people like us around designing businesses differently or helping people get into self-employment without the fear of doing it on their own. That's now the biggest change. It's not a sidebar side gig. It's now an essential part of people's thinking. And that's where people like you and I can really help people take their first sort of steps into that brave new world.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think it was last night that I saw on the news, and I might have got this figure wrong, but I'm roughly about right, that in the last month, 450,000 businesses have been started. There's been a massive amount, and really interestingly, what caught my eye, being a bit of an old bugger, shall we say, is that the average age of the people starting a business was 55. Can you believe that?
Right.
So that just really affirms what you've just said, doesn't it? That people have been in employment for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden, they're not so sure and what's going to happen, and they don't know. And they think, I'd like, I suppose, my life to be in my hands rather than somebody else's. We saw the other day on the news again, didn't we, that that company sacked 900 people on a Zoom meeting. That hit the news. I can't remember the name of the company now, but
I saw that.
Is that a good thing to do? I suppose it's difficult to actually make them all redundant individually in the office right now, but I'm sure doing it over Zoom is not a good thing either. But anyway, that happened. So I think we one thing we don't know about is what's going to happen with the COVID situation. I don't think even the people in the know really know what's going to happen, let alone about us mere mortals. But I do think we've got to protect. And I don't mean that in a negative way, like a pull back thing. I mean it more in a positive way, where we've got to be thinking, right, if times are going to get tough, if it's going to be difficult, I want to hit that time in as good a condition as I possibly can, so that when when we do come out of it, if we, that's assuming we, you know, things are going to get worse from that perspective, we and my business and everybody's listening's business is going to be a bit in a better state than it would be if we just hung back now and thought, oh, you know, isn't it terrible? Isn't it awful? You know, we don't know what's going to happen. That is not the thing, I believe, to do in 2022. We got to, you know, we got to hit that ground running. When you know, whenever it is on the 3rd or 4th of January, when we all start back. What do you think?
Well, I mean, again, your stat about the 450,000 businesses, I think I heard something the other day that, you know, even in normal circumstances, just the UK alone creates 2,000 new businesses every day, and it's been again 10x. It's you know, it's a lot. More people are now aware of that. A lot of people are looking for, oh, I couldn't do that on my own. So people are looking at these new options, because the stat that follows that is it's not being driven from the old entrepreneurial reasons. We call them enterprises, because they're people that they kind of would like to go into business, but they're not, you know, what we think of as the entrepreneurial mindset. They almost want the safety of a job, but the freedom of self-employment, and it's something between them. And that's where the side gig economy that we made before comes in. Because those, if 2,000 a day are starting, well, 1,600 plus of them will be gone in less than 5 years. And that's what then brings you to, and you mentioned Gerber and the EMyth before. That's where there's a hardwired fault into the way we have been taught to create businesses. And that's where sort of Bizconnectors or doing, how can we set up businesses differently to address that fault? Because we've got all these tools that, you know, I heard the line the other day, it's probably easier than it's ever been to set up a business today, but it's probably harder than it's ever been to stand out. Partially because there's so many more and there's tools and people can do it from their back bedroom. So there's got to be fundamentally a different mindset and then different thinking skills to get to what thrival means in all of that volatility and uncertainty, that VUCA world, as it's called.
Do you think it's too easy to start a business?
I kind of get why you're emphasizing the too easy, and part of me says yes, but I'm gonna say no for the reason that a buddy of ours, a young guy in Spain, and if you see the difficulties it puts in front of him with this. The moment you're an entrepreneur, you've got to pay 500 euros a month and you've got to register for this. So on the one hand, there's a piece of me thinks maybe it's a little bit easy, but at the same token,
I'm talking in this country, by the way.
If we can get the drive of it and then get the right to support to people, then I want the gateway to be open, but I want the ability to get people thinking differently to what we see every week on Dragon's Den, so that the success ratio goes from currently you've got a 20% chance. You've got more chance of being in business, by the way, in 5 years' time if you play the slot machines on Las Vegas than you have on the current model. So I don't want to make it more difficult. I want the education to be better and more fit for those people from different backgrounds to be able to build a business that fits for their particular work style. That to me is where we can change the odds.
That makes total sense. I think one of the problems is when people do go into business, they don't fully appreciate what they're doing. You know, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, you know, they just don't realize how difficult it is and all the things you have to do. You know, typically when a business starts, you know, perhaps they start as a one-man or one-woman business with aims to grow and so on. And then they find themselves, you know, 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months into it, and they've got all this stuff to do. You know, they're the chief bottle washer, they're doing the bookkeeping, they're doing the this, they're doing the that, and they've often just developed a really a nightmare situation. I remember when I started out, I was very good friends with a gentleman called Malcolm Whittle. Now, Malcolm was the former managing director of Tarmac UK. Back a long time ago, and he was just about getting towards the end of his sort of career and looking at retiring and stuff. And I told him what I was doing, and he said, "Oh, he said that's really good news, Steve." He said, "Because when you run your own business, you only have to work half a day." And I looked at him. I said, "What do you mean? What, only work half a day? I'm going to work really hard." He said, "No, no, no. It's true. You only have to work half a day." He said, "Not only that, but you get to pick which 12 hours those are." And how true is that, you know? I thought, oh, right, that's what he means. That's what he means. But, you know, boy, is that true, you know. People work phenomenally hard running their own business. But often, I'm sure you'd agree, it's not doing the right work. They work hard, making it, selling it, shipping it, repairing cars, cutting hair, doing accounts, you know, doing legal stuff or IT support, you know, whatever it is they do. But they don't spend enough time on the building the business side of it. In fact, sometimes they're I think Gerber calls them technicians suffering from an entrepreneurial seizure.
Yes, but again, 80% of business owners are
Yeah.
technicians, and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
love
yeah.
the thing the business does.
Yeah, yeah. And so they're what they've got actually is not a business, it's just self-employed work, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if I'm a I don't know, I'm a window cleaner, and I just go out there all day long cleaning windows. Is that a business? Well, it sort of is, but really to develop a business, I'm going to have to think about employing other people. You know, there's many examples of people who've gone into, you know, business like, you know, I don't know, oven cleaning and, you know, all carpet cleaning, all sorts of different industries. And you know, finished up just, you know, 30 years later, still, you know, cleaning or doing whatever it is they do, and never really grow their business because they, you know, either don't want to, don't know how to, or you know, just feel worried about doing so.
Right. Well, that is UK PLC. That, you know, 98% or something, an accountant told me, is, you know, the one person operators that a relative percentage have got a desire to scale up, but they really don't know how. And if you throw the stats in there, that they're even the one where you see sales and marketing put together, that if I'm more traditionally from a, you know, classically sort of sales trained background, my best friend from college was the group marketing manager for one of the big haulier companies.
Okay.
Now, he and I are very different. He's a marketer, and classic old-fashioned. He's very quiet, and he's not the type that you take into a meeting to go bada boom, bada bing. You know, he's not. He's not people orientated. So even in those areas, the ability for clients to be able to buy the right services or to work with the right people, that we've got such a fault in the way that that window cleaner is out there trying to do business, that, right, if I get my business to the point whereby at the end of every month, our definition for a business is, if you don't know that in the next 30 days already, so on the 31st of the month, that your business will at least cover its costs, and you've done that for 3 months, it's not yet a business. It is a self-employed job, as you called it, from sort of EMyth Gerber speak. And that's our core problem. We can't get people. We've got the entrepreneurial rush, we've got the desire, but we've then got to get proper education. And remember, you know, we did all go through this thing, let's call the education system. You know, it's not for today's subject, but we all went through it. And we don't do the law pretty much, which would be useful for most people. We don't do much on finance. We certainly don't do the how-to of running a business.
No.
If nothing else, in the light of what we're seeing on the back of COVID, it does now at least make an exclamation mark or a question saying, isn't it time to get some of the things that you and I are talking about into the mainline core curriculum? Because an awful lot of people are saying they're coming out of school today and it is not equipping them for how the world is today. It isn't. So people have got to get their skills somewhere else.
Yeah, I've got to say, you absolutely 1,000% right, and I'd actually add to that that you know, you could argue certainly some of it is the fault of the, you know, whether it's the schools or the education authorities, the government, and so on. But at the same time, you know, they're, you know, they've got to try and teach children for things that don't even exist at the moment.
Right.
You know, I was talking
Right.
to my son a little while ago, and he's sort of well, he's just 16, and or one of my sons is. I was talking to the 16-year-old, and he said, you know, can you imagine what it's going to be like, Dad, in another 20 years? And I said, do you know what? I just cannot even, you know, even in that time, let alone about, you know, by the time he's my age, you know, the world's going to be just unbelievable, you know. I mean, things like, you know, whole industries are going to disappear, you know.
Yeah.
Things like taxi drivers, bus drivers, trains, planes, you know, that's all going to be done by, you know, some
Well, you
computer.
know, think
They're
about
going to be
this
sat
one,
in the back of a
given what,
car, you know,
think
doing
about,
my texting while driving down the motorway at
well,
70 mile an hour.
but think of what you just said about industries that will disappear. And given what we were talking about, if you can get on the web, as you clearly can, if you can get the best geography teacher in the world
Yeah,
and bottle what he or she does, then think of the implications for the
I know.
role of being a teacher.
Yeah,
Because whatever we know of schools in the future, they'll probably be run by generalist facilitators
yeah,
using the best practice from all
yeah,
over the world.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because you know, that means the job as we know teachers and lecturers
yeah,
are gone in the 10-year picture. They
yeah,
will be made redundant.
they
So
will.
there's people that have got to retrain.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you know, it's the change is massive, and you know, I think from a business point of view, even just, you know, bringing it right back from 20 years to, like, you know, 1st of Jan, you know, this next year, there are so many businesses out there that don't really embrace this change and this need to know. You know, I hear it all the time. You know, yesterday I ran a 1-day training program online on Zoom. It was quite hard actually doing an all-day Zoom meeting, but you know, that's what I did. And I had about, I don't know, 20 odd people on it. And I said, you know, we kicked off with the usual introductions. You know, I said, right, tell everybody your name, what you do, and where you consider yourself to be as far as your LinkedIn knowledge is concerned. Every single one of them said something like, well, you know, I'm on LinkedIn, but, you know, it was either I don't do very much or I don't know how to do it.
Right.
And these are, you know, business owner type people. And, you know, I think one of the best forms of marketing that there is, and something that I know, you know, we do really well in terms of generating business on is LinkedIn. And yet most of the people, most of the time, don't know how to use it. And it's the same, not with just with LinkedIn, but I think with most forms of marketing. You know, one of my little sayings I have is that it's not that you're doing the wrong marketing, it's that you're doing the right marketing, but you're doing it in the wrong way. You know, people say, well, I tried Facebook and that didn't work. And so I've had to go at Twitter, and I don't really want any business over there either. So I had to go at Google AdWords, and that was just a waste of money. And, you know, and so now I content myself by going to a few networking events and relying on referral. And that gets them to here, but they really want to go to here. And you know, they need to invest time, money, and effort in sales and marketing, and also, you know, in growing their business. Because as we all know, there's only 2 ways of increasing profit. One is to reduce costs, and the other is to increase sales. That's it. And okay, we could buy other businesses and so on, but that's just increasing sales. And you know, I think it's really important that people take on that mentality that next year, you know, is the year they're going to really ramp up and improve their sales, assuming they want to do better.
Well, that is the challenge of the age, because whether it's people on LinkedIn or the call I was on before you and I spoke, was interestingly a chap from Newcastle, a Geordie, living in Australia, and he's a Facebook specialist for all the reasons that he likes Facebook, and just his introduction in terms of the things that will get you closed down on Facebook that most people don't know about if you're trying to market on there. And we were speaking to him because the way we now see is the way to solve this problem. To the average business owner, there is no way on this earth they have got the time or the desire to become a LinkedIn expert, a Facebook expert, a Twitter expert.
No.
So they've got to have a different approach to get that done. So
Yeah.
that's, as per the book, as we mentioned Gerber before, the other kind of groundbreaking book is the Who, excuse me, the Who, not How. Rather than people trying to work out how they do this, it's who can help me, and then how do you create the commercials to manage that?
Yeah.
And that's where, in our approach then, is to say, right, they now understand why they want to invest in the area called Facebook, because Facebook's just like a district in a town, isn't it? It talks to people in a different way than LinkedIn does.
Yeah,
so
indeed.
But you need experts such as yourself to guide people through that, because unless most of our business owners become Doctor Who and they can live in more than one time zone, they will never get good enough to be able to do those things themselves. So they have to design their business to get them done for them on reliable business models that people like you and I can show them. But it's in the design that the fault is, not, as you say, they're putting the effort in. I tried Google Ads. We've got the specialist guy that we work with on Google Ads, a young guy that's been trained by Google directly. The things he will show you as to why people lose fortunes like that, well, you just have not got the time to get all of that information. And it's information inside Google that they don't deliberately not show you, but it's not easily available. So you've got to have those experts, as long as you can set up the business to get that expertise at the right time for the right reason with a budget that makes sense. That leads to a very differently designed type of business for the future going forward.
You're absolutely spot on there. It is almost impossible to, even full-time marketing people. You cannot be an expert in every single element of marketing. It's just too big. There's just too much to know. When I started out, all those years ago, it was letters in the post, adverts, and exhibitions and a few more things, a bit of radio advertising or whatever. But it was so much more. You didn't have as many. It's like, today you've got a choice of 1,001 ice creams. Back when I was a kid, we had chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry. And now
put them together. It was called Neapolitan.
Infinite ways of marketing ourselves. Just unbelievable. So much choice, and it's very difficult to get right, I think. So we're coming towards the end of our time together. What I thought we'd do, just to bring it to a close, is just the two of us. And I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but to give our three best tips for businesses that they should be doing in 2022. So don't know whether you can have a think about that, or do you want me to go first?
Well, you kick it off and let's see how we go.
Okay, I got a bit more warning, hadn't I? Okay, so my number one tip is that I think, from if you're committed to growing your business, then what you've got to do is to do more. It's as simple as that. What do I mean? I mean more picking up the phone and speaking to people. I mean more posts on LinkedIn. I mean sending out more emails out to people, and so on and so forth. So just putting more effort into your sales and marketing, could have a massive impact on your business. Number two, and this sort of marries in with what I've just said, really, is you need to get better. You need to raise your game. Tony Robbins talks about how do you become more successful. and he says it's simple. You just got to raise your game. You've got to, again, become better at what you're doing. If you're really good operationally, really good at repairing cars, and that may be something that you don't need to become better at, but you need to become better at managing the financial side of the business and the marketing side of the business. They tend to be the two areas that I see people are weak in. So you need to become better. And thirdly, I'd say putting together a really strong set of goals and objectives for your business, because, you know, if you're going to do more and if you're going to get better, it's got to be for a reason. The question is, what is that reason? So I think you need some goals. I think you need some objectives. And I don't think they should be just, right, these are my goals for 2022, but what are your goals for January? What are your goals for the 3rd of January, if that's the day you're starting again, you know? So get some daily goals, some weekly goals that you can really start to track and measure. Get some monthly goals, quarterly and yearly. And if you want to really go for it, you know, 5-year, 10-year goals. But I think really it's about setting a goal for the goals for the next 12 months. That's what so they're my 3. I hope that helps people listening. Over to Mark.
Well, listening to yours, Stephen, I'm not sure mine will break down into the 3, but your 3 give me a context, and it's a context for the 3, I think, listening to what you said.
Okay.
And the context for the 3 in that sense is, you know, you're more, better, and having goals. Well, if I take that last one, goals, and almost going back to, almost invariably, you know, when we find business owners, and I think the Federation of Small Business, it was about 84 hours a week, you know, you got half the deadline that you did before.
Yeah.
When we looked at that, and they were kind of going, well, do more what? I'm already working 84 hours. Well,
yeah.
The answer then sort of becomes, they've got to change that more. They've got to do something.
Yeah.
And the context seems to be, if they can go back and look at the reasons that they started the business and get to that, almost that stuff we started hearing in the 90s about mission and vision, and we didn't know really what it meant. Well, finally, we've got a context for that now, that if there was a reason that you set out to solve a particular problem, you know, and you've got a mission and you've got a vision and you know why you stand out for difference in the business, then you've got a context for doing more of the bits that you're really good at and getting people involved in the other areas that you're not, because that's what gets you better. And as such, you can really start to hone in on growth goals and who can help you and everything else. So I think mine's more of a context which helps them with the 3 items you so itemize very well in terms of more, better, and goals, is get back to the basics, because that's what will help them plan and prioritize, which invariably leads to better results.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's again, really good advice. So on behalf of Mark and myself, I hope you found it interesting. We met probably just a couple of weeks ago now. We had a Zoom meeting and said, wouldn't it be great to do something together? And I know I've enjoyed it. I really do believe we've had some great value to you. So I hope you feel the same. So Mark, if somebody wants to find out more about you and what you do and how people can help you, what do they need to do?
I think initially they just go and take a look at the Bizconnectors site, which is the BIZ, and then connectors, CONNECTORS.org, and they will get to us and can ask questions from there.
Okay, fantastic. If somebody wants to know more from me, same thing applies. Different website, steve-mills, MILLS.com, and you'll notice on the homepage there's a big gold button. If you click that, you can gain access to my online diary and book a meeting there and then at a time that suits you. So be great to speak to anybody, and thank you ever so much for listening. Thank you to Mark for being my sort of guest on here, although
thank you, Steve.
Yeah, it's really appreciated, and thank you ever so much again for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.